You guys have been arguing for the last 30 minutes.
Well, and then it's like, okay, give me the reasons that you think this is the right decision, and I'll take this to the weed executive. And the weed executive is that manager managing that. Like, I just think it sounds so silly when we make it about wheat, but it really, like, that's the cool thing that I think this article showed, is that, like, again, we talked about this the last time, right? It's not so much necessarily about the large language models, it's about the small language models and the really domain specific agents that I think are going to be really neat, because they're going to be really good at doing this thing, and then you put them all together and they're all really good at doing a bigger thing.
Welcome to Agents of IT, where we decode the future of enterprise automation and explore what it really takes to achieve agentic, zero-ticket IT. We chat with a wide variety of guests to discover what's broken in IT operations and spotlight the tech and teams leading the zero-ticket charge. Whether you're a CIO trying to shift from reactive firefighting to strategic value, or an automation architect building the next-gen service desk, this is the space for you.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Hoyer, CEO of Resolve.
And I'm Ari Stowe, COO of Resolve. Welcome to Agents of IT. We're joined yet again by our resident DJ and trivia master, Ian. He's come in to walk us through a couple more articles today. Thanks again for coming, Ian. We're excited to have you and get to another fun article episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here. And maybe if I'm lucky, I can get you guys to talk about the article instead of throwing shade at each other whenever you get the first possible opportunity.
No way.
Set the bar lower, Ian. Set the bar lower.
That's how we became friends. They say the people you tease are the people that you're friends with the most. So
they only say that in Philadelphia, though.
That's true. Yeah. They only say that in Philadelphia. Yeah. In Philadelphia, they say your best friend is the guy who punched you in the face last. That's what they say there. So,
well, luckily we're virtual, so it won't come to that. But well, let's get cracking with some of these articles. Kind of like last time, just for the audience, the context of this episode is to take a look at some agentic AI headlines, especially as they pertain to IT. And Sean and Ari can provide some insights and some hot takes on what these headlines are saying, how it pertains to what we do, and how it pertains to the future of IT. So the first article that I wanted to throw at you guys came from Forbes, and it was called Reinventing ERP, or IT, with Event-Driven Agentic AI. And it had some really interesting insights that I wanted to form some questions around. I guess the first thing that jumped out at me when I saw this was, how do you see agentic AI reshaping traditional ERP and IT systems? Do you guys think it will eventually reduce the need for human oversight in routine operations and things like that?
I mean, the article kind of implies that it's going to, which is interesting, right? I mean, we're talking about incredibly complex ecosystems, like people that have specific jobs in the ERP ecosystem around purchasing and like managing logistics of everything. And I mean, even people that work on the manufacturing floor to like identify gaps in inventory and like understand how the flow of materials is actually working. And so I don't know, like, it's basically the article implies that you can kind of create an agent for each little job. Like, and this, I mean, maybe this kind of goes back to what we were talking about of like FTE AI, basically.
Yeah. Agentic FTEs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I kind of got excited reading it because I was like, if you shrink the universe to like, I'm responsible for buying wheat, you know, and like, I know everything there is to know about buying wheat. Yeah, like maybe an agent could do that. They know all suppliers of wheat. They can like look at the like fluctuations in price and start to predict like when's the best time to buy wheat. How much should I buy based on the flow of materials? And like,
I actually think what I got like even more exciting than that too is like that you might have a team of agents that are all wheat buying team, right? So you've got like well, no, because I mean like it when you think about ERP, right? You think about like some of the things that have to get done, like reconciliation of inventory or like order acquisition reconciliation, like making sure there aren't mistakes in the order and stuff, right? So now you've got like an agent over here checking prices and fluctuation and telling you need to buy more stock because you'll save this much if you buy this much stock, right? Like, so you got this guy who's over here price reconciling. You've got this guy over here inventory reconciling. You've got this guy over here just reconciling like, hey, you purchased 10 times the normal amount. Is that intentional? And they're all kind of talking and then letting the wheat buying team like know about any of those anomalies. Like, that's super cool. Like, that is agentic orchestration.
The AI oversight, your AI manager that's like, all right, you guys need to make a decision. You guys have been arguing for the last 30 minutes.
Well, and then it's like, okay, give me the reasons that you think this is the right decision, and I'll take this to the wheat executive. And the wheat executive is that manager managing that. Like, I just think it sounds so silly when we make it about wheat, but it really, like, that's the cool thing that I think this article showed, is that, like, again, we talked about this the last time, right? It's not so much necessarily about the large language models, it's about the small language models and the really domain specific agents that I think are going to be really neat, because they're going to be really good at doing this thing, and then you put them all together and they're all really good at doing a bigger thing. So I think, like, yeah, man, this article, like, I had not thought about ERP or even like bigger, broader IT systems when it came to, what does that process look like? But I do think, like, this, inventory management, reconciliation, procurement and payment, like finance audits, like, those are things that right now take tons of human hours. And I know if I went and asked our VP of finance if he loves doing audits, I think he's going to tell me no. And so if I told him he could have an agents do audits and he could have a higher confidence in them, how would he feel about it? I think he might high five me. So, and I don't think Daniel's a high fiver, to be fair.
Daniel is not a high fiver. He's not. Yeah. I've seen him in person many times. But yeah, I mean, I do think, like, if you take it on the macro scale, it sounds scary and it sounds wild and crazy. But if you take it on the micro scale and you focus it on a person's job, like, what is the sphere of their job and their role? Like, it's very doable in today's world, and with today's technology, it seems really doable. It's the chaining together of all of them to have them collaborate that still seems very kind of futuristic.
Yeah, agentic orchestration. I mean, that's that's what we see some of our customers doing that on a smaller scale today. But I do think, like, as these agents become more pervasive, like, that's going to be the sexy part of this for sure. So
very sexy, Ari.
Yes.
Well, listen, I'm a nerd. Let me have my nerdy things. So
all I know is that if we ever get tired of agentic AI or making the future of IT zero ticket, we know how to start an AI powered wheat cartel. So that's our backup.
All right, we're on that.
Another question that I wanted to throw is, this kind of ties to the concept of, like, the black box AI we touched on a bit last time, but what are the potential risks here that people might be on the lookout for with an AI driven ERP and IT? Like, how do organizations kind of hit that balance between autonomy and control?
So I get to start, because there's a couple that I think are really interesting. They're not exactly risks, but it's like, okay, so now if like, we've already kind of framed this as like FTE AI, right? And so I already also framed it as, like, shrink the universe to a person's job. Okay, so now imagine you are a 6-figure paid wheat procurement person, and you've built your career being an expert in that space, right? And so now I'm coming in as, like, consultant from whatever big name, and I'm like, well, we're going to build an AI that does your job, and we're going to need you to help train it. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to teach this AI everything you know. And it's going to watch every task you do for the next month and learn exactly what you do. And then it's going to self-optimize to do it better than you. Like, that's a really interesting, like, how do you do that? Like, that's the interesting thing for me. That's like, how do you incentivize somebody to train a model to do something like that, where they've built kind of a career? Like, these aren't hourly employees. These are people that are, like, have legit invested in themselves and learning an ecosystem. That's a really interesting challenge, is like, I know that we can turn those people into essentially oversight of the ecosystem, right? That's the evolution of their job. They're basically getting promoted from being a frontline worker to being the oversight of AI. But having been in that world before, where you're training your replacement, I mean, that's a tough it's a tough thing. It's a tough transition to manage.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the way we would handle that at the, at the Grain Gang or whatever our wheat cartel is named, would be really, I think it's got to be, like you said, focusing on not about training your replacement, but about like giving yourself a tool that can do the thing that takes you time and energy to do better and faster. And I agree, like it is a hard thing to consume, from the perspective of you are kind of maybe working yourself out of a job if it gets really good at it. But we talked about this on some other episodes. Like I do believe there will be new problems to this, right? I mean, the fact that this is moving so fast and making so many decisions, like there's got to be some oversight. There's got to be some checks and balances to this. And a lot of this is going to be about trust and about bringing this all into a way that you can consume what's happening so quickly. So it's probably going to be more about almost like project managing these AI FTEs, because it's not really going to be managing, because you're not managing people, but you're managing the outputs of the work. You're feeding the right data in. So like, I think the world, I mean, and again, like as a software developer, and product person, maybe my brain goes here first because this is what my world has always been, but it's really going to be about making sure that the requirements that you're putting into these agents are really crisp and defined, and then analyzing the outputs and making sure that you're, meeting what you need. And so I think like that is going to be what the world is going to be. To me, the risk, I think, is making sure that you don't make the move to have it all happen so fast, right? Like, I think a lot of people that I've seen that have made mistakes already have been like, well, the agents, like, we just had a conversation with a customer yesterday where they were like, well, like if the data isn't there, will it just understand? And we had to be like, no, it's not magic, guys. Like it's really good at coalescing and correlating information and making recommendations. But like, if you don't have the information to give it about what might be the problem, it's not going to just like know the problem. We're not building precogs. We're building AI agents. And so I think to me, the risk is like making sure that just like any project, making sure that you understand the outcome you're driving to, making sure that you understand the information that you need to make those decisions and make those agents successful, and then making sure that you put that in. I think the last thing that I feel like every time we ever talk about AI that comes up is the trust. And it's about like starting and building from a place where you can have trust in what's being done. Cause that's to me, that's the most important thing. As soon as one of these agent FTEs or things make a mistake, like one, yes, it has the potential to be at a volume that's crazy. If the Grain Gang makes a purchase for a million bushels of wheat, and we normally only order 1,000, like that has a huge implication to our bottom line. And that's because we didn't put in like, hey, don't go buy $100 million in wheat, because we don't have $100 million in our budget to go buy that wheat. So like, I think there are like the first time that you encounter a trust issue, like that's going to be a big moment for you as a business, as a team, as an AI enthusiast. And so I think like a lot of the risk and concern I have comes around like building it in a trustful manner.
To summarize Ari's 5-minute soapbox, you should start small.
That's what a lot of
that's reasonable. Yeah. Well, start by defining things and start in a
the same
way
agree
you meet an elephant.
I think, scoping it, creating an initial really tight scope, proving it can do that initial tight scope, and then expanding the scope. Like it's incremental development that we've known, and people that have adopted it have been very successful. People that have adopted this massive, like, let's build the spaceship all at once, like they fail. The spaceship blows up.
Yeah. Elon Musk isn't getting to Mars by building a rocket ship to go to Mars today, right? So like, I think that's
we talked to him last week, just so you guys know.
We were on the phone together. I was like, hey man, we're starting the Grain Gang. Are you in? And he was like, I'm in. He's like, I like the name Flower Power better. Are you guys interested? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a little too Colorado for me. So,
well, hopefully he gets back to us, because you can't have a space colony without food. So
it's true. You need wheat on Mars. So
exactly.
I saw The Martian. I know what's up.
I want to pivot a bit more to workflows now. More specifically, like how might event-driven AI workflows feed into a zero-ticket IT strategy, resolving issues before they have a chance to become tickets or like create a negative impact on the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of covers like sort of what Sean started with, was like the, you know, small agents with focus on those things. I think like the purpose here is those agents will have context and understand this is anomalous, or this is the precursor to something bigger. And like as those agents start to understand your environment and your domain and your business and you and how you deal with things, they'll start to be able to make recommendations of the last time we've seen something like this happen, it resulted in an issue, or oh, hey, this thing is happening and right now it's not causing a disturbance, but it can, and so I'm just going to go ahead and fix it. And so I think, again, like the answer to that is really small and domain specific things are going to have the biggest impact. And then I also think on the other side of it, all of those AI agents with all of that. I mean, this is the story that we've been telling with AI ops for a long time, is all of those AI agents with all of that data from all of those systems are going to be able to come together and let AI give you a more holistic picture of the entire experience. Like, again, recent conversation with the customer we had that I think was really exciting is, for the first time as a business, they're bringing data and information they know about their customer experiences and trying to bring that together with the systems, that the information that they've had for years, and try and marry that together to understand customer outcomes. AI is going to make that so much easier and so much better. And we're working with them to build them an AI agent to do exactly that. Right. And so I think like that's the experience that I think is going to help shift you to be proactive, is like tying all of that information and talking about experiences and outcomes instead of, you know, errors and issues and tickets and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a mentality shift on top of the data that's available.
Yeah, I mean, and there's in the world of IT, right? It's an incredibly broad landscape, and so that's why I think when people hear zero ticket, they think it's like some far off fantasy, because it is such an incredibly broad thing, right? You could come to them with an issue with your laptop, an issue with a printer. You could come to them with like an issue of submitting your timesheet or like your expenses, or it could be a system that went down. And like these systems are incredibly complex these days, like the infrastructure it takes, the layers of services, like and so like it's just such a broad area to go after. But I mean, to me, it's similar to what we talked about with ERPs, is like, if you shrink the universe into a specific domain and you have an outcome, like Ari was saying, that you want to achieve, like AI can handle that. It's you get yourself in trouble if you try to create a single generic AI to try to handle all the things. But if you create these agents to handle specific domain specific things, and then you put an abstraction layer in front of it, a funnel into it, like we call the front door, like you put a front door into it, it decides which agent that thing needs to go to be resolved. Then you can solve just about anything in IT. Like there's very few things that we can't go in and address today, for the most part, with a trained, you know, agentic solution.
Do you think that either of you could share some examples of some operational decisions that could be fully automated with agentic AI?
Yeah, I mean, the Weed Boys right here. I mean, the Weedies.
I mean, I think it's, again, it's in so many different areas. Like we know we have a lot of customers in the telco space that manage incredibly complex network infrastructure, and they've been doing it for such a long time. They've built hundreds or thousands of run books that tell you exactly how to diagnose and respond to specific issues. And if you document it to the point where you know, an operator can just open up the document and follow the steps, we can turn that into a workflow. Like not even like an intelligent agent making decisions. That's a workflow. It's deterministic. It's specific, right? The agentic part of that is the diagnostics part. It's the front end. It's figuring out where is the problem, and then you kick into a run book and take action in a very specific step-by-step manner. And so like that's in one of the like most, we'll say, mission critical pieces of IT. You know, the other side, I think we know in the help desk space that the top things driving volume are things like password resets, account unlocks, like permissions, service provisioning. All these things, again, are easily documented into like, these are the steps it takes to like reset someone's password or give them access to a new file system or whatever it is. And in all of those, it's the exact same thing. Is you first have to understand like the intent that the user has, like what are they actually trying to accomplish? And then that translates into an action step, and it follows a very prescriptive set of actions. And so like that's the spectrum that we deal with, is like deep, highly technical network infrastructure, critical infrastructure, all the way up to like the things that every employee on the planet deals with. That's like access to systems.
Yeah, I've got two, one that's related to us and one that's not, just to kind of help you wrap your brain around like the possibilities, right? So I think from our side of things, one of the ones that I think that I've seen that's the coolest is we had a customer who was leveraging our intelligent workflows and their information to look at when the best maintenance window on an application is. So they went and looked at like users, volume, like backup jobs, all the things that are running on this application, and then they were able to see like Tuesday at 2:30 a.m. Eastern time is the least amount of users and the least amount of impact. And so like seems silly, but when you're talking about, again, this was a big telco, when you're talking about impacting hundreds of thousands of users in a maintenance window, like that matters, right? Because there's dollars associated with that, and you have SLAs that have to meet those things. So the one I think that like, you know, we talked about this a little bit in ERP, and this might hit home with Sean because he, you know, as an ex-Amazon guy, but like some of the things that you've seen that are really cool with some of the automations and AI that's out there today is like the optimization of the logistics floor in an Amazon warehouse. So like they use AI, not just for the robots in the store that are helping doing the picking and moving pallets around, but actually understanding like what are the things that are most frequently purchased together and putting them in a way where they can be picked and packed like in the most efficient way. And like, you know, there's nuance to that. There are, you know, some people who are not happy about how optimized it is because it makes people work harder and whatever. And like, listen, there are new problems that AI is going to create that we're going to have to solve. But I think that's a really cool use of this kind of technology, is like, it's, again, it's about not just always about taking action. Sometimes it's about optimization, understanding, looking at things that are just beyond the scope of what it would make sense to give a human and ask them to do in a particular time frame. So yeah, I mean, I think those are two
There's nothing like being able to, you know, order some socks for my son and have them here tomorrow when I live in the middle of nowhere. Like I don't live near a hub. So like
some of that feels like magic.
Whatever they're doing, like kudos.
We ordered poop bags for our dog when we were on a walk a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday, and it was like 7:00 in the morning. We ordered them, and I got home at 10 after lunch, and they were on our doorstep. And I was like, "Dude, this shouldn't be like
we
possible."
got you, Ari.
So yeah. I was like, "What?" Must have been one of those drones. But
no, I live right next to a warehouse, so it'll be like, oh, do you want this in a couple of hours? And I'm like, something about this feels uncanny.
They just yell out the window, "Hey, Ian, open your window!"
Yes, please.
Just lean out, being like, oh dear. Well, we've covered how AI and IT and ERP are being reinvented a bit in this context. I think now it would be good to pivot to agentic AI in the context of the front lines, like with employees who are on the front line talking to customers and kind of taking a look at the experience that AI might create or enrich kind of around that. And a frontline experience is critical to a commodities syndicate or any other kind of business. So this article that I found is from Tech Radar, and it's called Beyond Copilots, the Agentic AI Revolution on the Front Line. And its leading thesis, as you guys saw, is Agentic AI is poised to transform the frontline workforce. And to dial it back just a little bit, you know, we obviously for many years, chatbots have been a feature of customer service that we've kind of all come to expect. I'm curious to hear from you two what distinguishes a chatbot or an AI co-pilot from a truly agentic AI operating on the front line.
All right, I'm taking this one. So I'm pretty passionate about this topic. So like, I believe there's probably more nuanced levels to this, but my opinion, there are like 3 levels to this at the highest, you know, kind of order. The first is like just your AI assistant, right? That's the Series, the Googles, the even the chat GPTs that are like, you know, go get me a piece of information and tell me a thing, or, you know, book a meeting on my calendar, or and So, some of those times, those things are often called co-pilots. I believe that's a mislabeling. When I talk about a co-pilot, or when we talk about the co-pilot that we're building and working on at Resolve, it's actually about a partner, like somebody who's not just there to like, you go do your dirty work. It's to ideate with you and help you solve a problem, right? And so my belief is that like the real value in AI is in the AI agent that goes and does its own thing without checking in with you, which is that last tier, that AI, like that truly agentic AI, and then the true AI co-pilot. But like I think that this article kind of conflates those last two about a co-pilot and an agent that goes and does a thing for you. An agent that is a co-pilot will go do some of those things for you. And we see that today in our customers where they pick up a ticket and they start working that ticket. And the first thing that needs to get done is the health check on all of the systems to understand the true impact of the issue. And our co-pilot is already going out and doing those things and has that information to report back to you. And then you can ask, okay, well, that's interesting. What about the health of this other application that's related? And then it'll go out and do that stuff with an AI agent as well. And so I think like that is the thing that has the ability to change the front end of all businesses, because all businesses have IT and customer facing people. So for me, like I think moving beyond co-pilot is kind of a misnomer. I think moving beyond assistant and basic co-pilot to like true AI companion or like agentic FTE, like, worker that can help you solve a problem is really what they're talking about. And yeah, I think what makes that happen is more domain specific information, more targeted guardrails, like, again, trend of a lot of the stuff that we've talked about before, but it's really about like having it know, okay, this is my network agent. This is my database agent. This is my AI log agent. And I come and I say, hey guys, like, this ticket is having a problem. It doesn't look like there's any alerts on any of the systems. Like, what's going on with these? And it goes out and gets all the information and comes back and tells you, this is the problem. Sometimes that'll happen proactively. Sometimes that'll happen reactively. It doesn't really matter. The purpose is AI agents are going and taking the action and correlating. And then in some cases, actually going out and remediating those things for you, right? Like, oh, this database has a large temp file that needs to get dropped, or, a log file that needs to get truncated. Okay. I took care of it. All the services look like they're responding, right? Like those are the things that are low impact, high value, that I think you're going to see AI agents doing more of. Then when you think about the things that are high impact, they may need a person to be like, okay, yes, you can go ahead and do that, right? Go ahead and drop that table. It's not going to cause an outage to the business, right? So I think those are the things, or maybe it will, but it's worth doing. So I think like that's, to me, I think the article kind of missed on the like broadly sweeping all co-pilots are just assisting humans. It's like, well, that's not necessarily a co-pilot. That like a co-pilot is somebody helping you pilot, not just doing what you ask it to do. So
gotcha.
Well said, Ari.
Yeah,
I like the last part actually. Specifically, a co-pilot is in the cockpit with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a co-pilot.
That's very literal and also, true.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something that we touched on earlier in the conversation about agentic AI affecting the roles of IT staff. We talked a little bit about the fear of, for example, training a model that will eventually train you out of a job. But we also talked about how when an AI is introduced, you kind of become promoted to supervising that function while it executes the grunt work, if you will, of that function. Can you guys expand a little bit on that, like with IT roles and looking at augmentation of a role versus fear of displacement?
Well, I think this one, they were talking about frontline roles and they were talking about retail a little bit, right? In this article. Yeah. And so like my first like legitimate job after graduating was with Kroger. And Kroger is it's a massive retailer in the US. I think they're only second to Walmart at this point. Yeah. An incredibly interesting business. And so like I worked in IT, I worked on two key internally developed solutions. One was their labor management solution, which basically did forecasting and labor scheduling across all like 5,000 of their grocery stores. So like down to the minute, like you need to be stocking cans in aisle 5 right now to like be able to keep up with like managing the entire store. And the other system was, I think it was called rules-based pricing. This is like 15 years ago. So like my NDA is expired.
We're in the clear. Okay, cool. We can still
that,
release
Kroger?
this.
It's expired. It's expired.
I'm sure they are way more advanced today than what I'm talking about. But that system actually managed pricing in all of the stores, and it managed it like by region and geo, and like it was incredibly intricate. It actually like tied together different things. Where it was like, if I reduce the price of peanut butter, how much more demand will I get for bread? Like it was doing these really complex calculations to determine optimizing for revenue, right? Basically. And so like these two systems, I think are really interesting because both of those could be dramatically impacted by the advancements in AI. So like imagine you're a store manager, right? And back in the day, store managers worked 80, 90-hour weeks. They had like a 90% divorce rate, right? Because they had to live in their freaking store to make sure it ran smoothly. But imagine now, like in today's world, we could partner that store manager with an agentic solution that's helping them to manage everything in their store, that understands like this person just called out and these are the tasks we were going to have that person do. How do I fill that gap with the personnel that I have? Right. And instead of you sitting down and having to work all of that mental load yourself or make changes to some system, if this agentic solution is just recognizing that and just making shifts on the fly to people's task plan for the day, that's incredibly impactful, right? And that's not eliminating someone's job. That's making it so they can do it in a sustainable way. And so I really think in the frontline world, things like that, where you're managing, a pretty complex store, a lot of hourly workers, that are doing pretty like remedial tasks like stocking shelves or updating prices or like chopping meat or, prepping things. Just handling that complex ecosystem and making adaptations that could be game changing for these like retailers trying to manage that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they would love a solution that means they don't have to basically sleep at their desk. It sounds like a kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, 100%. I think, when you talk about the actual people stocking the shelves, though, like I just don't like that's, these types of things until there's robots out there like doing that for you. And no offense to robotics, but that's pretty expensive. You got to maintain them. You got to run them out there. Like, I just think we're pretty far away from like generally frontline employees being replaced through AI, because you still have to be able to like go out there and like put the cans on the shelf, make sure the cans aren't damaged, like that's still a very human centric job. But it doesn't mean they can't have like some PDA that's like, hey, update to your schedule instead of your next task being like stock the Wheaties for our new business
for the grain gang. Yeah.
They're like, look, there's still 10 boxes of Wheaties on the shelves. Go stock the Cinnamon Toast Crunch or something. I do like that. That could be a very real thing, but also again an enabler to the frontline employee, not necessarily like an augmentation or a replacement of them.
I think the other thing that I think is cool too, again, just in my brain as my experience as an IT person and as a developer, the other thing I think that is cool is that you could start to see more of the frontline tasks that do need human intervention scheduled or prioritized based on like highest outcome impact. So like before, we've always done this through like urgency and priority, and these have been like a lot of human experience things, right? And IT has gotten a little bit better at it over the years. Now when you submit a ticket, it'll ask you questions like, does this stop you from doing your job? Does this stop others from doing their job? And there's a couple of questions that help determine priority and urgency and impact and things like that. But I think when you start getting the data behind it, I, as a desk side agent, if 30 calls come in and I'm in a building going and working, and I get a ticket that says like, you know, Sean's computer's out and Ian's computer's out, and Sean's the CEO, but Ian's the guy who buys the wheat, and if we don't buy the wheat, then we're in trouble. Then like it might be like, hey, Sean is the highest priority ticket from a person perspective, but Ian's going to have the biggest impact on the business if you don't fix that. I think that's a really interesting, like, again, shift of like how we could see some of the AI agents using data and its understanding to make like holistic decisions on empirical data that maybe structures things a little differently than we do today. And listen, some of that might be hard to chew. Like, you know, there are CEOs out there that'll be like, I don't care what Ian's job is. Yeah. My computer is the most important thing. But I think if you came back and you said, listen, we showed that like the biggest impact to the bottom line was Ian's computer, I don't think there's a CEO on the planet that would be like, all right, well, if that saves the business money, that's what I want solved. So I think like
targeted. I feel targeted, Ari.
Yeah. Well, you know, just call me Luigi, I guess. So yeah, I think like there are lots of interesting implications that we'll break down over the, like, as these agents get better at things. And I think finding little efficiencies and ways to do things will have a big impact on it. And I mean, honestly, guys, let's be really transparent about this. Zero ticket IT is about this experience. Like when we talk about zero ticket IT, and what Sean and I have envisioned when we came up with this in the first place, is we want people who are the front lines guys to have a more white glove experience with their customers. And the way you do white glove experience is you let people self-service the things that are self-serviceable, and then the things that aren't self-serviceable, you allow your technicians more time to solve those first time or more complex problems, because they don't have to do the 900 password resets or the turn it off again, turn it on again, laptop things. Like the agents can take care of that stuff and they can focus on providing white glove experience. So at the end of the day, like, it is going to be a combination of empowering your human resources and getting AI agents to do the real frontline, like busy work stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, white glove with the power of a legitimate co-pilot, making you as a technician even more impactful and powerful to serve your customer. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, this whole journey to zero ticket, I think, is going to change employee productivity, employee satisfaction in a significant way. And people aren't even talking about that. They're only talking about cost savings. Like,
yeah, the satisfaction part, Sean, is the part that I think you talk about the most, that I think most people are sleeping on. Like, if I onboarded I think you were the one that said this when we were first talking about this, like when you hire me as an employee, if it takes me 6 days to get into a system and get logged in and feel like I'm a productive member, that's the most anxious time I am at a company, is when I'm new and trying to figure stuff out. If you take that off my plate, you make this a better place to work. And like, I do think, you were an early call out on this. Like, it's the employee satisfaction is a very obvious tangential benefit to these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than when you're waiting for your laptop to be fixed, especially when you're trying to illicitly buy grain. There were a couple more questions I had relating to this, but I feel like we've kind of touched on those. We touched on how we can make sure that AI is trustworthy when acting autonomously and reducing the need for manual resolution. We're also getting fairly close to time. So are you guys okay with me skipping ahead to the third and final article?
Let's get it.
Awesome. So the third article comes to us from Fast Company. And I thought it was a natural follow-up to the previous one, because whereas we just talked about agentic AI and autonomous IT's impact on the frontline employee experience, I think it'd be handy to look at the other side of that and look at it from the perspective of the customer experience. The article says, as customer expectations evolve, businesses are seeking more advanced AI solutions. And especially as someone who worked in the customer experience industry for a long time, I'm curious to get you guys' take on how agentic AI is changing those expectations, like more specifically of enterprise customers in IT or service environments.
I mean, I think the evolution is going to be incredibly impactful. I mean, you're already seeing, like, I think, Google was the first one to present some of these things where, you basically have a true assistant that can actually reach out to people and have conversations, and people don't know they're talking to a bot. They don't know they're talking to a technology. And that's where you have to be, though. Like, let's be freaking clear. Like, if you create a customer experience, like, there is nothing more frustrating than entering into a telephony system that's like asking you, like, pick one of the next 27 options, and you got to listen, for 3
You're like
minutes.
holding up the number. Okay, I think it was number 3. Hold on. Oh no, maybe it's number 5. It's number 5. I think it's 5.
Okay. Yeah, it could have been 2 or 7. Which one do I want to go with? Like, that is the most frustrating thing ever. And that's the current experience when you try to inject technology into the customer experience. And so, like, people hate that, right? And most people, they want to either like get in and just get the answer to their question or get the refund or whatever it is they're trying to get to as fast as humanly possible. And many people don't want to talk to a human, but some people do. And in my belief, many of them want to talk to a human because they don't want to have to deal with the technology.
Because they think that's the only way they're going to get their answer, right?
Technology is failing them. And so the introduction of like true conversational AI and generative AI to be able to, again, understand the context, understand what is your intent that you're trying to get to without putting a freaking menu in front of you. Like, how can I help you today? Like, well, I bought a pair of shoes and I'd like to return them. And it says like, oh, great, we can totally help you with that. Like, would you like to, reorder a different size or a different color, or, you just don't want the shoes at all? Like, I just hated the shoes. Oh, great. Here's a link. You can go return them at Walgreens or, FedEx ship or whatever. Or they're like, yeah, I'd love a half size bigger. And they're like, great. Looks like you were, a size, if you're Ari, a size like 26 shoe, and you're like, okay, great, 26 and a half. We'll custom make those for you and have them on their way.
Yeah, I do have to order all my shoes on the internet, but I'm only a 15 or a 16. I'm not a 25. No, listen, I think, okay, so there's 2 pieces to this that I want to highlight that I think we talk about a lot of the times is one, a lot of the systems that we're talking about today are serving IT and businesses. And I think that oftentimes what we're missing is that a lot of times it's actually not about our customers. It's about the customers of our customers. And that's a nuanced thing, but it's very important to call out. And I love this because it's one of my favorite Resolve examples that we've had, and actually one of my biggest frustrations on the planet. And I'm not going to call out the giant telco provider that is my internet provider, but I know that when I have internet problems and I reach out to them and they don't know what's happening, I want to jump off the top of my roof and like into a pit of alligators, because like, what's happening, right? And that's actually one of my favorite automations that we did for a large telco company that's here in the Denver area. We helped their service desk build an automation that when a customer calls in, they look up that number against the accounts they have in the system. And while that customer's calling in, they run a health check on the account. Can I hit their modem? Is there, what's their TV services? Like, it runs through the list of services that customer has. And by the time the service desk person picks up that phone, they say, oh, hey, Sean, looks like we're not able to connect to your modem. It doesn't appear to be an outage in the area. Have you tried restarting it yet? Oh, you've already tried that? Okay, let's get a technician scheduled. Imagine if that was your experience every time you called your service provider. Like, I close my eyes and I'm like, oh, the utopia. Like, I wish I could change my provider to this provider just because I know what that experience is like. And I think that AI agents are going to enable more and more and more of that. Like Sean said, like, I called, you asked for my number or my email address. You know who I am. You know what my purchases are. Like, when I go into a store and I talk to a service person at, when I'm buying Lululemon pants for my wife, like, they look up and they have all the history of the pants that we've purchased or the tops that we purchased, right? Like, the computer and the agents can do that just as fast. So when I call in for customer service, like, it knows, oh, this is a problem with that last order. I'm sorry. Do you want to return it or do you just need to exchange it for something different? Like, that is such a great experience because I pick up the phone and I'm at a place of help. I'm at a place of service. And that's true whether you pick up the phone, whether you email, whether you're chatting with the chatbot. And that, I think, has been the miss of chatbots today is chatbots today are like trying to deflect you with just, do this thing. This is the next step, not about what have you done. Let me understand where you are in the process. Let me understand what you've already done. And then I'll pick up from the middle because I know you've already done these things. It makes you go through those experiences again. And so I think as we improve those experiences, the experience for our customer and the customers of our customer are going to be invaluable. It's going to make it feel so much more human.
There's such a key element to that too, that I think a lot of people categorize as personalization. Like it's the Waldorf or something. Like there's some hotel that is just known for having like incredible personalization. Like they know, what your favorite things are. They know where you're from. Like you walk in and they're like, oh, how was your flight in from, Toronto? And you're like, oh shit, I didn't know. Like, well, yeah, it was okay.
How did you know my itinerary?
Yeah, I know, they know your name and everything. Like it, and that is such a, again, it's got a wow factor to it. And I think so much of what we've done in the customer experience space, like Ari said, is an attempt to deflect so that you can reduce costs. Like, it's been so much of a focus on reducing the cost of supporting your customer base, as opposed to a focus on wowing your customers, creating a wow experience for them. And generative AI, I think, has the opportunity to, agentic AI, generative AI, like the combination of the technology stack that we have available to us today with all of all of the intelligent data layers we have too, we can create such amazing personalized experiences for customers that give them a feeling of like, I am important. And that is a phenomenal experience to have.
Yeah.
I mean,
the examples about the examples that you guys provided, I mean, it really speaks, they speak for themselves when it comes to reducing churn and increasing loyalty. Ari, were you about to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think that is that feeling of personalization or preemptive work, coming to me with trying to help me get to a solution is to me is the next step in customer experience and AI customer experience is putting some energy into understanding the customer's problem and not just taking their input. So yeah, I think I think it's interesting that they, bring up how do we embrace that in the customer experience. I love that they're talking about this and that's where we're headed, because I think there's a lot of implications that can be here. And I think we're going to have to learn some things, figure some things. We're going to have to start capturing data we've never captured before. We're going to have to start correlating data that we've never correlated before. But I think the cool part is that AI and automations and these agents are going to help us do that also. So I think they're going to help us drive a little agent FTE team to help us get more involved in the customer experience of things.
Well, especially as someone who spent so much time in the CX space, designing surveys, the idea of AI making all of that better is just chicken soup for the CX soul. And I'm sure it is for the customer as well, because like we've outlined with your examples, we're really reducing that churn and making the experience good instead of making you want to tear your hair out. Okay.
You're not supposed to be eating chicken soup, though. It's supposed to be, shredded wheat, obviously.
I'm sorry.
The grain gang, you've got to support the business, Ian. So shredded wheat for the CX soul, sir.
Anybody could have made that mix up. My bad.
Sure.
All right. Well, we're coming up on time. I think that we've covered how proactive AI can reduce churn, how IT and business collaborate to give AI the information that it needs to meet the customer where they're at when they're dealing with a problem or where they're at in their journey. And yeah, I think we've really outlined how AI just makes customer experience better. And of course, earlier on, how it can help with frontline employees and deeper within the organization with reshaping traditional ERP and IT systems. Do either of you guys have any last thoughts, quips, anything that you want to add before we get out of here? What's that?
No, I mean, I'm going to go register graingang.com as I get out of here. But no, I think my big takeaway was today, all three of these articles were really focused on the proactive management of issues. And I think, or not even issues, but proactive management of ERP, of IT tickets, of customer experience. And so really, like, I think that is a key takeaway, is that all of this is going to help you realize things earlier in the process before they become actual problems or outages, and be more proactive about things, be more efficient in dealing with those things and getting a better ROI. I do think that 2 of the 3 articles brought up a good thing that we don't, like, Sean brought up too, that I don't know that we have an answer to, which is like, what is the experience for the workforce? What are the implications? I know we had a conversation off screen about, like, what does this mean for unions and union work, and what is, what are some of those jobs, and how is that going to stop AI from being adopted in the most effective ways? And like, I think that this is true anytime you get new disruptive technology, is that laws and regulations that are definitely put in place to do good sometimes block the good that can come from those things. And so I hope that regulations and laws find a way to catch up or get out of the way. I mean, I think about some of the conversations that some of our friends across the pond have been having recently about GDPR, and that GDPR was put in place for really good intentions and for the right reasons, but it's actually having an impact on AI businesses being started in the UK, because there's not really a way to forget in the world of AI agent and vector databases. And like, forget means, not return, but it's not really forget. And so there's these legal holes that are actually stifling businesses in those areas. And so I think, like, the one thing I'd love to see us pull up some articles and maybe even get our legal friends on the phone, or get a lawyer on the phone that's working on this. Yeah, whether it's Joe or whether it's one of our other friends that are working in this space. I think there's a lot of legal implications and regulations that are gonna be impacted by this, and we're gonna have to figure that out. And it's absolutely a minefield. But I think the key of this is, as long as we're pushing to better outcomes and better experience, like, there's going to be new problems that are going to need people involved in solving those problems. Like, there's going to be things that we're going to be able to shift that workforce into doing. And so it's just about, like, moving the cheese, but then going and getting that cheese, not throwing the cheese in the river. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah. I mean, I love the stuff that you said there, Ari. Like, I do think there's going to be tremendous impact in those worlds. Like, I really like, out of these, the kind of the focus and the conversation we had around employee experience and customer experience. Like, I joined this company, 15 years ago, called Rally Software, and they had this vision for, like, making the world of work better for employees, and they were doing it through Agile. And I feel like we're doing the same thing through technology and the adoption of AI and automation, and making an employee's experience more frictionless, allowing them to do their job freely, giving them the tools they need to be effective. Like that, coming home from work and feeling like you had a productive day instead of an incredibly frustrating day and not getting done. Like, I do believe that is such a huge portion of our daily lives, that if we can make that portion better, I think people will be happier. I think they'll be friendlier in their community. I think just good things will happen. And we will, through technology, have had a tremendous impact on the world.
Well said. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap on this episode of Agents of IT. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We appreciate it. Sean, Ari, thanks for being on the show and for giving us your 2 cents on those articles. We're going to go start a wheat cartel. And if you don't hear from us after this episode, Kroger came after us because Sean didn't read his NDA closely enough. So
apologies.
See you guys next time on What's Up with Wheat.
Our new spinoff. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Agents of IT. If today's conversation got you thinking differently about your own IT operations, or if you're curious about how agentic automation is helping teams make the zero-ticket vision a reality, please don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's next. See you next time.